Just for a second, imagine a world built not on competition, but on kinship. A world not based on scarcity, but on a shared inheritance for every living being. What would that even look like? Well, today, we're going to dive into a vision that tries to answer that exact question.
Get this one single sentence. It's the seed for an entire socioeconomic philosophy. It's a pretty profound idea, right? It totally reframes our relationship, not just with each other, but with the whole universe. The suggestion here is that we are all literally part of one vast cosmic family.
So that's the big question, isn't it? What happens if we take this beautiful spiritual idea and actually use it as the blueprint for our economy, our government, our whole global community? Where does that lead?
Well, the very first thing that changes is our whole concept of ownership. And this isn't just, some nice poetry. It's the foundation for a really radical new principle for how we view the world's resources.
And this idea has a name: common patrimony. Think of it like a giant joint family system. All the property, the whole world is shared, and it's meant to be used for the good of every single member of the family. No one person owns the earth or the water or the air. Instead, we all become stewards of this common inheritance. We all have a right to our share and a collective duty to protect it for everyone else.
Okay, so if everything is a shared inheritance, that idea is going to totally transform our economy. I mean, it doesn't just tweak the rules a little bit, it changes the entire goal of the game.
And wow, this slide just lays it all out. The contrast is stark. Prout's philosophy says that under capitalism, the main focus is always individual profit. But in this vision, the focus shifts completely to collective welfare. Ownership, as we said, moves from private to our shared common patrimony. And, this is crucial, the outcome is no longer seen as exploitation, but as the proper utilization of all resources for everybody's benefit.
This is such a powerful critique. From this viewpoint, when one person accumulates an insane amount of wealth, it's not a sign of success. It's actually a direct cause of scarcity and suffering for other people. Because, resources are finite. So if a few people hoard them, it means deprivation for the many.
And this leads to a really fascinating psychological idea. This philosophy argues that the desire for infinite, endless accumulation, it isn't natural. It's called a psychic disease. It's like our natural human longing for something infinite gets misdirected. Instead of seeking something spiritual, that energy gets channeled into a desperate, finite pursuit of more and more wealth. So the goal isn't to punish greed, but to actually cure this underlying condition.
So you can see how this all builds, right? This vision of a shared economy, it naturally grows into a new vision for our global society. And that means we have to start breaking down the walls that divide our human family.
The theory points to these sentiments as the main things holding us back. Nationalism, provincialism, all of these, they're seen as artificial divisions that make our identities smaller. They create this us versus them mentality that stops us from seeing our shared inheritance and acting like one big family.
So what's the answer? It's this powerful idea, universalism. It's the principle of looking at every single person, no matter their background, as your own kith and kin. It's a call to just expand our circle of concern to include the entire human race.
And this way of thinking, it doesn't just stay in the clouds. It leads to a pretty concrete proposal, a world government. Now, this wouldn't be imposed overnight. It would be built gradually. The idea is to have a global body that can create laws to protect minorities, manage our shared resources fairly, and guarantee human rights for every single person. It even suggests a two-house system to make sure that both big and small nations have a voice.
Okay, so a new economy, a unified society. That sounds great, but who leads all this? This is where the theory gets really unique, with its ideas about the cycles of history and the kinds of leaders we actually need.
So this is the concept of the social cycle, or samaja chakra in Sanskrit. It's a view of history as a cycle where different mindsets take turns running the show. It starts with the Shudra age, led by laborers, then the Kshatriya age, run by warriors. After that, the Vipra age of intellectuals, and finally the Vaeshya age of capitalists. The theory says that each of these ruling classes eventually becomes exploitative, which leads to a revolution, and the whole cycle just starts over again.
So how do you break out of this endless, repeating loop? Well, the answer proposed is a totally new kind of leader, called a Sadvipra. These are basically spiritual revolutionaries, guided by universal moral principles. The idea is that they embody the absolute best qualities of all four classes: the hard work of the laborer, the courage of the warrior, the sharp mind of the intellectual, and the practical skills of the capitalist. but they stand outside the selfish interests of any one group.
And their role is so important. These leaders aren't meant to rule directly. Instead, they act as society's guardians. Their whole job is to make sure that whichever group happens to be in charge at the moment, whether it's warriors or intellectuals or capitalists, can't exploit anyone else. They're the system's conscience, its constant check and balance against tyranny.
Okay, so how do we tie all these visionary ideas together? We've got a shared universe, a new economy, a unified human family, and a new kind of leadership. How does this all become a practical path forward?
Well, this is where we finally put a name to the whole thing. Prout. It's an acronym that stands for Progressive Utilization Theory. This is the name for the entire philosophy, the actionable roadmap designed to turn this grand vision into a functioning reality.
So at its heart, Prout is built on these 5 fundamental ideas. Let's walk through them. Number 1, no individual can just pile up wealth without the approval of the collective. That tackles the psychic disease we talked about. Numbers 2 and 3 are about maximizing the use of all our resources and the potential of every single human being. Number 4, we need a proper balance between all these different utilizations. And finally, number 5, the whole system has to be progressive and adaptable, always evolving. It's a framework for a society that's always in positive motion.
And so we end right back where we started, with a powerful call to unity. This ancient chant just perfectly captures the spirit of this whole vision. It's a call for us to align our thoughts, our hearts, and our minds toward one shared purpose, to live in harmony not just with each other, but with the entire cosmos. It leaves us with a pretty inspiring question. What's the first step we could take today to move just a little bit closer to a world like that?